So a woman notices a man with his grocery cart in the grocery store with his little fussy 2-year-old boy. And the father says, "Be calm, Billy. Be calm. Be calm. Be quiet. Billy, be calm." So the woman walks up to him and said, "You're such a wonderful father. I mean, you're just so calm and gentle. Thank you for doing that. That's really wonderful, that you're talking like that to him." He said, "Actually, my name is Patrick. My name is Billy." That is what we are told in our awareness, and what I have learned for sure in my life in spirituality and in the pursuit of some type of enlightenment that brings peace somewhat on a daily basis. It really, at the end of the day, what matters is what we tell ourselves. We are told in Scripture in Psalms 46:10, "Be still and know I am God." Be still and know. Not be still and panic, right? Be still and be overcome with stress, or be still and start thinking about how it worked out in your past, and it's probably going to be like that again. We're simply told to be still and know. There's something very powerful in that moment of stillness, that there is a calmness that comes over our spirit regardless of circumstances. And what we do over time, I don't know that we always eliminate the outside things coming in, but what we do over time is we develop such a core of depth and understanding in our knowingness that we no longer need to live life reactively or as victims. Does that work for you?
Yes, ma'am.
George Bernard Shaw would say that most people think 2 or 3 times a year, very significantly. And he said that internationally he had made a career out of thinking 3 and 4 times a week. Something powerful about that. That we're not just on automatic pilot, you see. We're not just responders. We are individuals that recognize the power of the habits daily that we create in our lives. I have gone a couple of times to minister retreats in the fall. And I was somewhat surprised when I was at the last one, and it was in September, I think, and they were already talking about how stressed they were going to be over the holiday season. I'm looking around like, is this going to be something they're going to laugh about? Is this for real? They're going to be so stressed over the holiday season? And I was thinking that I was using discernment rather than judgment, but I was a bit taken back by that, because what it said to me out loud, it said to me very clearly that this is the time, more than any time, where we ought to be still and know, where we ought to be calm, where we ought to be, all of us as Unity students of life and of truth, we want to exemplify that we believe at our core that all is well, and that we are here to share the dynamic energy and vibration of love. When the mind is filled with minutia and detail and that stress vibration and holding on real tight, there's not a lot of love for the surprising element of love to come in. Do you agree with that? I think it's very, very well stated. A good friend of mine, Reverend Kevin Ross, from a Unity minister in Sacramento, he had a title of a talk a couple of weeks ago, and it really touched me. And it said, "Jesus was not born, he was sent." Jesus was not born, he was sent. And it stopped me, in my learning capacity, because I thought, that is so powerful. Because that automatically gave him permission to just go ahead and be what he was here to be. And I thought about it for all of us. What if we live from the paradigm that we are more than just that we were born, but that we were sent? Can you imagine the impact that that would have in your competency level, in your confidence, in everything that you face in your life, anything that's problematic? You're coming from this whole vibration of, what's going to happen and what am I going to do, to a place that says, I've been sent. Can you imagine going into your office where you work? I've been sent. I'm just real clear, I've been sent here today, But can you imagine that feeling, that shift of, this is what I am sent here to do? And in that moment, it's like you just download such an energetic presence about you. Say it with me. I have been sent. You can feel it. You can feel it. So when there's fires in California, when there's still recovery from Harvey and Irma, and when they have pleas in Puerto Rico, and you see the stories of the children and the animals that are still displaced throughout our country, you immediately respond as, I've been sent. And I know that from that vibration, I can connect to something that sent me. I have my full gear with me, and I'm going to go to work right now. It's not, I don't know what to do. What should we do? It's, I've been sent. Do you feel the difference in your essence and in your being? It calls you forth to a greater capacity, whatever it is. Years ago, when I was on the speaking circuit, Reverend Richard and I tell travel stories all the time, because let me tell you, if you live on the road, you have stories to tell. We'll spare you of that today. We're going to keep it, in the Christmas spirit. But that being said, years ago when I first started doing it, I needed to negotiate my own contract. I needed to work out all the details. I had to make my own hotel arrangements, and I had to do the airplane and the car and, all of that. And I finally got that, I've been sent here to do this. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so I signed up with a firm that they did all that for me. And all I had to do was show up and do the talk and then go sit back down. It was really wonderful. But I got really clear in my understanding what was mine to do. And that's what I'm asking you today. When you think about from the place that you have been sent and you have this job description. There's nothing more painful in a corporation especially, or in management, when you see a person attempting to do something that their job description that they don't know how to do. Do you agree with that? They're wanting to, and there's this insecurity and there's this friction, and they're wanting so much to show up and be in that capacity of that job description that they just don't have the skill set. And that's what it's like in our humanity sometimes, when we're not clear that we have our own individuation of God job description to do. If we will just do that, we release the friction, we release the stress, because we get back to be still and know I am God. And I sent you. So you got what you need. Are we connecting on this? Because I've got a little bit more time left, and I can certainly, go on to something else. I love the story of the two monks that are, yes, they were men. Thank you, angels. That they were traveling on this journey, and they were walking by a small river. And this woman came up to them, and she was all nicely dressed in her attire and her jewels. And so she said to them, would you please take me over the river? I have to be on this side. Would you please take me over there? And one monk immediately said, oh no, not going to happen. But the other monk said, sure, I'll be glad to do that. And so he picks her up and lifts her up to his shoulders, and he walks her across, and he comes back and he joins his friend. And they're walking along the riverbank, and they begin to talk. And the younger monk looks at him and says, "You know, I'm still so aggravated with you. I just can't believe that you did that. You know, we are not supposed to have a relationship with women. And I'm just so upset." And the monk looks at him and he said, "Young man, here's the thing. I dropped her on the other side of the river. You are the one that you're still carrying her." Isn't that powerful? It's powerful. What is the story that you're telling yourself about your upbringing, about your parents, about the good job they did or didn't do, or the other people in your life that didn't see you, or the connection? What is the story that you are sharing in your own life that you're still carrying, though that river walk has come and played out? What is the story that you are still telling yourself, that you're still making that connection? Free yourself from that. There's something so freeing when you decide that you are sent and all you're here to do is love. I know that, and I know this to be true. I came from extreme dysfunction. And yet, on the ride to South Carolina 2 days ago to pick up my mom, be with all my family, I sat in a place of grace, and all the way, those 600 miles, I could think of all the memories that were all about love. All about love. Because even the people that don't see you, that don't get you, that don't connect with you, that never figured you out or know who you are or anything, or know that you've actually been sent by a father that's really, really special, give them a clap, because they have helped you see yourself. They have helped you find your true job description. They have helped you find the awakening of the love that has been lying dormant all along. It is so powerful. I love Joyce Meyer's matter-of-factness. You know, she really does some very strong messages. And she writes, "It sounds strange, but when I started learning to be peaceful, I was bored at first. I was so accustomed to having something major going on in my life all the time that I wondered, what am I supposed to do with myself? That describes how my life used to be. I had no experience at all in enjoying peaceful life. I did not even know how it began. I had grown up in an atmosphere of strife, and it was all I ever knew. I had to learn an entirely new way of living, but now I'm addicted to peace. As soon as my peace disappears, I ask myself how I lost it and start looking for ways to get it back." Wow. Wow. It happens to so many of us, you know, that we go through windows of our life and we are so clear that something's wrong. And so we tend to get in that mantra of being used to something being wrong. I don't know, does that apply to any of you? You don't have to raise your hands. You're looking at me kind of like, so I think there's some body language going on there. Ruth went to her mailbox one day and she got a letter. It wasn't postmarked or anything, but it had her address on it. It was on New Year's Eve. She opens it up and the letter says, "Ruth, I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Christmas, and I would love to visit. Love, Jesus." So Ruth gets all excited, and she goes shopping to the local store. She didn't have much. She wasn't a woman of much means, but she goes to the grocery, and she starts putting together the bread and the deli meat and the cheese and thinking about having this amazing guest at her home. So as she's leaving the grocery store, there's a homeless couple that come up to her and they tell her that they don't have a place to live, and here it is Christmas. They weren't really sure what they were going to do, but they wondered if she had a little bit of money that she could feed them, that she could help them or do something. And so Ruth, she said, I really don't. I've got a guest coming over the weekend, very special guest, and I've got a lot going on, and no, I'm sorry, I can't really help you. And so as she's walking out, they turn back and say, we wish you a Merry Christmas. And in that moment, she left her minutia. She remembered that she was sent. And she looked back to them and she said, here, you take all this food. And I wish you a Merry Christmas. And with the snow, let me just give you my coat. Let me take off my coat and let me give you that as well. And you have a Merry Christmas. So on Christmas Day, Ruth was very surprised when she got another envelope. She knew the mail didn't run on Christmas Day, but she opened it up, and the letter said, it was great seeing you, Ruth. Thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for the coat. Love, Jesus. Being called to a higher place of love, that is really what all of this is all about, is getting to that place where no matter what answer comes to you about anything, that core of you of knowing how much you are loved never wavers, never changes, never stops. It's the greatest awareness that you'll ever have in your life. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you have done. There's nothing you can say, nothing you will say that will ever keep you from that immensity of being loved, because you are sent. As Saint Teresa would say, when we think of hunger, we think of the lack of bread. But hunger in our world today implies, with everything that you see, there needs to be more love. Do you agree? There needs to be more care, more giving, more energy, and more essence. It's really so powerful. There's a story about a guy that is seeking enlightenment. He's a monk, and he's so determined to get enlightenment, and he's stressing about it. And he goes without food. He doesn't show up when everybody else shows up to dine. He doesn't. He meditates too much, just constantly, and he's so anxious because he's so seeking enlightenment. And one day, the master of the community says to him, "Come here, let me talk to you. You need to take care of yourself. You look so stressed." And he said, "Well, I'm seeking enlightenment. And I don't have time. I really need to, get enlightened. I'm really needing to do it." And he said, "Well, have you ever thought about the fact you're rushing for enlightenment as if it is in front of you? You're looking for something as if it is way ahead. What if it is behind you? And if you would just stop and slow down, it would catch up with you." Wow. Imagine that. A woman and her husband are celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. They're out taking a beautiful drive in the countryside. And the wife, she looks at her husband and she starts reminiscing and talking about the other days, how it was when they first got together. And she said, "Don't you remember, honey, that when we were together back then, that we would sit in the car and we would sit so close that you couldn't even hardly change the gears on the car?" And he looked over at her and said, "I never moved." When did you move? When did you move from that place of knowing that you are sent? God bless you.